My name's Jill, and I'm working on the 3PI project with Jazz for a period of time. In my background, I used to work for the Institution of Mechanical Engineers, and I work very much with technicians, with support engineering institutions. So it's quite a big target, but we believe there are huge numbers of people doing those kind of roles, and it is important to recognise their skills, their competence, and get them through to EngTech registration. And I think one of the key things we're doing, as Jazz said...
Sorry, you said a very important thing was about the amount of people that you've got at the moment, how many people are coming in. I had to change at that stage. Could you just say that again so we've got it on the
Yes,
camera,
of course.
please? Sorry.
Yes, no problem. So at the moment there are currently 14,000 professionally registered EngTechs or engineering technicians in the UK. We're hoping to drive that up to 100,000 by 2020. So that is going to tap into the pool of current people working in those roles. There are huge numbers, and it's a question of inspiring them and inspiring the employers to say this is important. You know, we need to recognise skills, competence, and promote professional registration to people who've come perhaps through different routes other than the graduate route. So employers are absolutely key in helping drive this change, and I'm sure unions are as well, and that's really obviously why we're here. So just a little bit about EngTech. So it recognises your competence. So competence, we know what that means, don't we? It's ability to do your job well, safely, correctly and consistently. That's what it is really. And your commitment to engineering. It's a key element of a professional, that they're committed to the work that they're doing and the type of industry that we're in. So it's in addition to any qualifications you've got. So some of you mentioned HNCs, we've talked a little bit about apprenticeships. This is in addition, okay? And it demonstrates that you've met a benchmark standard. That standard is set out within quite a big document that I've got here today called the UK Spec, which is basically the standard of professional engineering competence. And that is published by somebody called the Engineering Council that Richard mentioned earlier. So they're like the governing body for, and they say what is an engineer, what is an engineering technician. So these are standards that you need to meet in order to get those registration letters after your name. So it's important because once you get that standard, it marks you out as a professional with anybody you meet, with your bosses, with potential new employers, whatever it is. Just actually on that point, in terms of, we mentioned a little bit about qualifications, is anybody happy to say what engineering qualifications they have or are working towards, just out of interest? Is that okay? Anybody? Should we start at this side? If you don't feel comfortable, you can pass, that's fine.
HNC of Civil Engineering.
Excellent.
So you are as well.
Oh, Gary Kilroy, HNC Civil Engineering.
Thank you, Gary.
Yeah, Alan Levy, I've also got a HNC in Civil Engineering.
Excellent.
I don't have any qualifications engineering because I'm just the learning rep, but I've got HNDs and other stuff.
Gary Dugan, I've got an HNC in Civil Engineering.
Excellent. Pass that over. Sorry. Bear with me.
Alex Johns, I've got MVQ level 3 from the Advanced Apprenticeship, working towards a Bachelor of Engineering with the Open University.
Michael Chaplin, I've got MVQ 3 in Railway Engineering.
Matthew Ansell, I've got level 2 tracker engineering, but that's purely internal with Network Rail.
Excellent. Well, that's interesting. And I think something to point out that I think Jazz mentioned earlier is there is a route to become EngTech, and in fact to look at the other registrations that are offered through professional institutions, incorporated engineer and chartered engineer, whether or not you have those paper qualifications. So that's really important to bear in mind. And we've got a mixed picture. We've got somebody who's gone through an advanced apprenticeship. That's interesting because at least two of the institutions that I know of, the Institution of Engineering and Technology and the Institution of Mechanical Engineers, go and meet the Network Rail first year apprentices every year to tell them what professional registration is about. So just to reiterate the types of people who currently have Eng Tech. So they might not have technician in the role, in their title, sorry, but they tend to have technical roles, hands-on engineering roles. They tend to have a level 3 qualification as a minimum or the equivalent knowledge that they've built up in their job. Of course, they're competent, they're knowledgeable, they're skilled. That's why they've been recognised as Eng Tech. They may have supervisory responsibility. A key element is applying safe systems of work. And some of the Eng Techs I meet, are doing absolutely life-critical jobs. Network Rail, of course, is one. If you get something wrong, it can be disastrous. So that is a key element of proving your competence. Becoming a professional entails committing to not only your profession, but to develop yourself, and that's absolutely crucial. So if you went to the doctor, who's obviously is a professional, and they didn't know the latest treatments, the latest cures, etc., they wouldn't be very good. And it's absolutely the same with engineering. You need to be on top of your game, and that's the point really. Once you become Eng Tech, you become part of an engineering institution. They are there to support you, obviously, as is your union, to help develop yourself and continue learning. So that's what you do. You perform crucial hands-on engineering work, which is vital not only to your employers but to the economy. I won't dwell on this because Richard's touched on it quite eloquently. There are lots of reasons for you as individuals to go through this process to get Eng Tech. Not least things like, career development opportunities, networking, and just continuing to learn. Is that okay on that? You've touched on that. Whatever the area that you work in, doesn't matter. In terms of your engineering function, this is useful to you, can mark you out as a professional. And of course, employers are more and more focusing on the importance of Eng Tech. So with some institutions, it's relatively new. There was a focus in previous years on graduates, but there's a lot more focus now on developing talent all the way across the spectrum. And it's increasingly important to demonstrate that you're investing in your people, that you're developing them as much as you possibly can. And many of them actually pay the membership fees. I can't say what the situation is with Network Rail. Does anybody know?
We're in negotiations.
Super, excellent. So, we're going to get on now, or very shortly, to just a little exercise about how the everyday experience that you've got is something you can draw on right now to become Eng Tech. It's not a scary prospect. It's all about demonstrating that you've met these standards that are set down through the Engineering Council. So they tend to, they come in 5 different competences. So it's all about demonstrating the work that you do, your everyday jobs. It's not something extraordinary, a particularly tough project. Your everyday attitudes, your everyday tasks and engineering work, the way you approach those, the way you help improve processes, the way you solve problems, that is what you can use as evidence to demonstrate you've met that standard that's required for Eng Tech. So you may have heard from one of the films, the young lady Regina. She mentioned doing a technical report and a project report. That is what the Institution of Civil Engineers, that's the route they go down. Each institution's slightly different, but the point is you need to somehow write something down, either on a short structured application form, there may be an interview in some cases, but it's a process you go through to show people that you've met those standards. And usually, always what happens is the assessment is made by people like you. So they're engineers, they're engineering technicians who give up their time to look through the applications. So you're being judged by one of your peers. Yeah, it's not somebody who works for an institution. They're people like you who understand your challenges. So there's an element of an application form, and as I said, it's real life examples from the sort of stuff you do every day. So it's nothing to be frightened of, and something to encourage other people about as well. You've got to tell a story about how you approach your work, and don't forget it's all about your individual contribution. So I know when you write a technical report you tend to say, well, this was found and this was addressed. No, it's all about, I discovered, I decided, I assessed, that kind of thing. Does that kind of make sense? So, I don't have this on slide, but what we do, we have a pack of different competencies. So I mentioned there are 5. So I'll just run through what they are at the moment. We can put the lights up, shall we? Put it onto the plastic bit. Just above it. Oh yeah, that's it. Sorry about that. So basically, the 5 competencies, the first 2 really, are about demonstrating your evidence of how you work as an engineer. Okay, so the first one, competence A, is all about your engineering knowledge and how you apply that in your workplace, how you apply engineering principles and processes to tackle your engineering tasks. Competence B is more about you solving problems. So, for example, how you use resources to tackle an issue, to perhaps on a major project or whatever it is. Competence C is all about taking responsibility for your own work. So how do you manage your workload? How do you interact with other people in your team? How can you work without supervision from your immediate bosses? Competence D, and I've got these written down. Competence D is all about communication. Absolutely crucial to everything that you do. Your handover at the end of a shift, how you do a team briefing, could be around safety, could be around where you're up to with your projects. How do you tell your manager that you've completed what you've done? How do you tell the customer where things are up to? That kind of thing. And competence E, the last one, is all about your professional conduct. So all the institutions have a code of conduct. So you've got to sign up to that, that's the first thing. And then kind of live and breathe it in your workplace. So that can be, anything from not giving advice about technical issues if you're not competent to do so, if that's not your area of specialism. Down to, have to move, do I? Down to, in some issues there could be, in some areas there could be issues of bribery and that kind of thing, so trying to make sure you don't have any conflicts of interest. Also in the competency there are issues of health and safety, very crucial. So